This is When You Were Everything, chapter The First Day, pages 57 to 63. And this is another flashback. We're going backward in time to August. When school started, things were weird almost instantly. For one thing, Jace was acting like we were all best friends. "Lay," he said, throwing his arms wide, calling Layla by my nickname for her. Since he and I no longer kissed, he was not allowed to use that. But I didn't know how to take the term of endearment away from him. Endearment means like love or friendship. It's a kindness, so it's a word used to express your feelings for someone. Besides, what's in a name and all that, right? I mean, his name means healer, but we broke up. "Cleo Amani Baker," he sang next. And though we were cool and everything post-breakup, we weren't hang out in the hall before class cool. Layla nudged me in the ribs and widened her eyes in Mason's direction. He was a few feet away from us, and she clearly wanted to go talk to him. I realized then that Jace didn't really want to talk to me. He was just wingmanning it for Mason. A wingman is a person who hangs out with another person and keeps them company while they're doing something that embarrasses them, like trying to talk to a girl. So Mason wants to talk to Layla, and Jace is there to help give him moral support. And he needs to talk to someone, so he's going to talk to Cleo. I sighed and slipped my arm out of hers to let her go. "Hey, Jace," I said flatly. "I'm going to be late." This wasn't exactly true, and Jace knew it. So he was at best undeterred or unstopped, and at worst encouraged. He took a few steps closer to me, and I could smell the sweetness of the product. The product that he used in his hair. It made me remember what his collarbone felt like against my lips. It made me want to hide. I kept my distance, but Jace didn't, and when he lifted one of my long braids, I swatted it out of his hand. "Geez, chill, Cleo. I was just going to say I like this." He gestured at my hair. My braids were fresh, my edges laid. I was wearing a loosely knitted black sweater over my uniform shirt and my favorite floral combat boots. It was the first day of school, so of course I looked good. "Oh," I said. I tossed a handful of the braids over my shoulder with a flourish. "Thanks." I tried to get Layla's attention, but she was still talking to Mason, who was touching the collar of her shirt. "I'll meet you in Mr. Moon's class," I said to Layla, hoping she'd take the hint and come with me. But she nodded kind of absently, not getting it. So I just straightened my glasses and headed to the stairwell alone. "I'll walk with you," Jace said. And before I could tell him, "No, thank you," he was on the stairs above me, hopping up them backward, like an overgrown 5-year-old. "How was the rest of your summer?" he asked me. It was okay. I hung out at that new coffee shop by my building. Layla dragged me to some concerts, so normal, I guess. How was yours? Jace grinned, and his dimples were just as cute as I remembered. "Pretty okay," he said. "My parents are riding me." Oops, I was down here. Let me start over here. Jace grinned, and his dimples were just as cute as I remembered. "Pretty okay," he said. "My parents are riding me about balancing soccer and grades and keep threatening to make me quit the team." I frowned. I know how much Jace loved soccer. I knew how much Jace loved soccer. He shook his head. "Don't look so concerned. It's just typical Asian parent stuff." Then a little wrinkle creased his forehead. "But I guess I've missed you?" he said. "Am I allowed to say that?" I paused on the stairs. I didn't miss him. Not like that. "Not like that," he said quickly, reading my face again. "Not like, let's get back together." "Good," I said. "We broke up for the right reasons. And look, I know you're only stuck with me right now because Mason is trying to hook up with Layla. I get it. You don't have to lie or pretend you really want to hang out." I started walking again, wishing Layla were there, wondering what it would be like when she started dating Mason for real, because it felt pretty inevitable, or something that could not be stopped. Would Jace and I have to Would Jace and I have to have these awkward interactions all the time? God, I suck at this, Jace said. He reached for my hand and gently turned me around. We stepped to the side to let a herd or group of other students pass. And I was standing on a higher step than him, so we were eye to eye. I'm not pretending, Cleo. I'm just trying to say, you're the kind of person who is obviously not there anymore when they're not there, if that makes any sense. We used to talk every day, and it sucks that we don't anymore. Is that so hard to believe? I crossed my arms. Kinda, I said. What I should have said is I want to be friends. Real friends. Because I liked you as a person long before you were my girl. I still do. I smiled a little. Really? I asked. He nodded. I guess I miss your big head too, I admitted. Sometimes. Right, so can we really try to be friends? It's going to be a long 3 years if we don't talk to each other at all. And from the looks of those two, he gestured in the direction of where we had left our friends behind, we're going to be spending a lot of time together. I sighed. Fine. He grinned and I opened my arms. Bring it in, I said, and when he hugged me, he lifted me off my feet. After that, things got even weirder. I made it to homeroom a few minutes before Layla, and I was slipping off my backpack when she walked in. I was shocked beyond words to see Sloane Sorensen step into class right behind her. I had saved a seat for Layla, right next to me. The only other empty desks were a few rows away, closer to the back. And for a second, Layla actually looked a little torn, like she was considering sitting with Sloane instead of me. But after Sloane shrugged and walked past me to find an empty seat, Layla came to take the chair next to mine. I was hoping Sloane would be in our homeroom, Layla said as soon as she sat down. I didn't even know she was a sophomore, I said. Layla nodded. Oh, I thought I told you. When she told me a couple of weeks ago, I was really surprised too. A couple of weeks ago? I asked, and Layla nodded more. We text sometimes, she said. I glanced over my shoulder at Sloane as Mr. Yoon started taking attendance and going through the morning announcements. Though they both have reddish hair, Sloane's lighter skinned than Valeria, taller too. But now that we were in a brightly lit classroom, instead of in Valeria's dimly lit living room, or on her rooftop in the dark, I could see it a bit around the lips and in the slope of her forehead, a family resemblance. She turned toward me and kind of frowned, probably because I was staring at her like a freak. Just then the door of the class opened again. A boy with rich mahogany skin and a zigzag design buzzed into his short hair stepped inside. I instantly remembered Dom, but it was strange to see someone I thought I'd never see again, in a place that guaranteed I'd be seeing him daily. Sorry I'm late, he said, and I had forgotten that his voice was so low and heavy, like every word he said was a well-kept secret. I'm a transfer, and I went to 3 other classrooms before I figured out this was the right one. A few people giggled. No problem, Mr. Yoon said. He went over to the laptop on his desk. What's your name? Dominic Gray, he said, but I go by Dom. I wonder how I didn't notice that Dom was a sexy name when we first met. I nudged Layla. Do you remember him? She was texting. She was texting under her desk, and she had a half smile on her face. She looked up. I don't think so, she whispered. He was at Valeria's party. In the summer. He did that magic trick when we were on the roof, I whispered back. Oh yeah, she said. I wonder what he's doing here. Transfer, I said. Didn't you hear his heavenly voice? Layla laughed. I watched Dom's Jordan-clad feet as he walked down by my aisle, and I was surprised when he paused right by my desk. Cleo, right? Jace's girl? You're hilarious, I said. I know, he smirked, and I scoffed. A scoff is kind of like a laugh, but it's a not convincing laugh. I like your shoes, he whispered before continuing past me. I looked down at my boots, then up again at the back of Dom's long body. He was lifting the shoulder strap of his bag over his head, taking the seat right next to Sloane. From where I was sitting, I could see every detail of the design cut into his hair. It was different from the night on the roof, when it reminded me of Van Gogh's Starry Sky. Today it looked like a hedge maze, one I wouldn't have minded getting lost in. "I'm new here too," I heard Sloane say to him. I couldn't hear what he said back, but Sloane laughed, then reached over and folded down the collar of his shirt, exposing the smooth, brown skin that stretched over the knobs of his collarbone. I bit my lip and turned back to Layla. "Who are you texting?" I asked her, because she normally would have been giving me a hard time by now about the way I was ogling the new boy. To ogle someone means to look at, like you want something. Plus, she usually only broke our school's screenless policy to text me, and my phone had been silent all period. "I'm texting Sloane," she said. She glanced up at me and wrinkled her nose. "She's so funny." I looked around the class, unsure of what planet I was on, where Jace wanted to be friends. Layla was texting someone who wasn't me. Sloane was in our grade, and Dom was right here, sitting behind me in homeroom. I was relieved when Mr. Yoon started roll call. At least my name and my presence were things I could control, things I knew would always stay the same, even if everything around me was moving in directions that made no sense at all.